and we'll start here shortly. So thank you. Yeah, also know if you just log in, we have everybody on mute, but when we start the presentation and people will be asking their question, Uzi will be unmuting them. And before we start, I'll go over for last time the rundown of the show, so everybody kind of know how things are going to work out and what to expect. So thank you so much. Evans, thank you so much for joining. Madam Seliba, thank you for joining. All right. Adolphe, thank you for joining, representing the Rwandese community. So thank you. All right, so we got more people logging in. If you log in and your screen is showing your phone number, if you go to the far right of your screen where there are the three dots, if you click on it, you have the option to rename. So that way you can type in your name.
Correct.
So if you could do that, that would be great. It's going to be very helpful if we have everybody's name and we can call you by your name. So if your phone number is showing, if you could do that, that would be very, very helpful. All right, so we got more people joining. Barclay, thank you so much for joining. Yasmin Boch, thank you for joining. This is a time for everybody to make sure that they can locate the chat form on the bottom of your screen, because that's what we're going to be using to communicate and ask our question. If you're just joining, just know that we have everybody on mute. And when we start the presentation and people have some question, so we will unmute it. So, and we can officially start the presentation. So good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us on a Saturday afternoon. And my name is Papa. I am the founder and executive director of the African Leadership Group. You are joining us this afternoon for a very, very important presentation regarding the education of our children. And we are very, very honored to have some amazing guests that are in charge of our kid education that I'll be introducing to you shortly. Before that, I would like to go over some housekeeping thing that people to know how this format gonna work. And I also want to introduce you as well, the staff member that we have that's working for ALG if you have any question during this presentation. As I mentioned, my name is Papa, and I'll be joined with by Laurie Collier. And Laurie is the event manager, plan coordinator for African Leadership Group. She will be in charge of the slide and presentation. She's the one that you've been getting a lot of email from. So Laurie is going to be working with us. And I have Usman Ba. Usman is the program coordinator. Usman, I don't know if we can see you anywhere, if you can very much just wave at people. So Usman is the program coordinator. So he's in charge of making sure people are let in through Zoom and let out. If you have any question relating to Zoom format, so Usman will be the person that you're gonna need to reach out to. And we have Amadou. So Amadou, if you can wave so people can see you. Amadou is in charge of all your questions that you're gonna be sending through chat. Amadou will be compiling those questions and we make sure that we're gonna be able to read those questions for you. So those are the team of the African Leadership Group, but also this format is set up, as we all know, we are using this platform that became very popular now, which is Zoom, to conduct this meeting. If you are attending, as I mentioned, we have you muted, but when the time comes to ask question, so we'll unmute and mute it. But if you have some question also, you send it through the chat. It's very important that you use the chat format to send your question. We have 5 speakers this evening, and after each speaker, so you will get a chance to ask question to that speaker. So it's not like we are waiting until the end for everybody to ask their question. So after each speaker, so you ask your question. Please send in your question as the speaker is doing the presentation. Now we'll be also doing a raffle. There's some prize to win, and they don't trust me to put me in charge of raffles. So Laurie will come later and explain to you how the raffle works. So we just wanted to make sure it's going to be fun. We're trying to make it feel live as much as possible. So that's pretty much the format we're going to be using. So my ask is, if you have not registered, so please do so, because the only way we can follow up with you is if you register, and we can send you an email. So if you feel lucky today and you're going to be playing the raffle and you feel like you could be the winner, so please take the time to register. So those are pretty much the platform. Now, all of you, most of you know by now the vision and mission of the African Leadership Group, but I'm assuming we also have some guests that are attending this platform for the first time. I would like to see the opportunity also to share with them the vision and mission of the African Leadership Group. So the African Leadership Group mission is to help the African diaspora integrate and prosper by connecting culture, developing strong community leaders, and advocating for economic, social, and educational impact. So as we know, it's an organization that evolves and revolves around the well-being of every single member of the community. Now, when it comes to regarding the education work that we do, and this is the education and youth initiative. So we figure out as an organization, when it comes to our children education, we all have a role to play. So the district has a role to play, the school has a role to play, but as a community, as family, we also have a role to play. We always wanted to make sure that we play our role and do our part. And that's how we came up with the education and youth initiative. And you can see that we work collaboratively on a joint education advocacy. This is one of the initiatives that we have done with the Rose Community Foundation to improve educational equity within the Aura Public School. One thing also that we do as an organization, we know as immigrants, so the education system sometimes can be very difficult to understand. But as an organization, we wanted to create a platform where all the parents can come together and we can educate and inform one another. So we have a parent engagement platform where we get together with the parents and inform them and educate them, and do that in collaboration with the district as well. But most importantly, we have our youth initiative. We wanted to make sure that when we talk about our education, the education of our children, we involve our children. So every Friday, all of you know that we have our youth empowerment program where the kids get together and we have facilitators that work with them. So we want to hear from them, because we don't want to be the one that always make a decision from them. And as you can see from some of this picture, so it ranged from 5 years old to 16 years old. We wanted to create a safe environment for our children to be with other kids that look like them, that sound like them, so they don't walk around to always feel like they are a minority. So we started this program a few years back with 4 kids, but now we average over 60 kids every single Friday, and it keeps growing. So that's what brings us this evening to have this conversation. So I really want to thank all the parents that are involved in this initiative, all the facilitators that are involved, but also all the children and students that are involved also. Now, And here are the speakers that we have that's going to be joining us this evening. And I cannot express enough how much it is an honor and a pleasure for me and for the entire community to have the superintendent recommend to join us to really have a conversation and share with us some of the things that's happening in the district. Superintendent, it's truly an honor and we want to welcome you. Thank you for being with us this evening. We also see, as you can see, we also have 4 board of directors. And this is regular familiar faces because they are part of the family. They attended event, they attended program. So Kevin, so I met you when you were running for school board. It's truly a pleasure to see you and coming to share your intake and insight with the community. Deborah, so good to see you. And I'm just happy the opportunity that the community will get to hear from you. Marcus, pleasure to have you as well. And thank you so much for taking the time. Dr. Kyla, you are someone that we don't need to introduce into this community. You've been around as been part of Women Empowerment Program. All I can say is it's just so good to see you again. So thank you so much for all of you taking the time to join us. But also we have one of our own that's wanted to really take the time on behalf of the student and the kids to really have some welcome remark to our guests and to the entire community. So Lily is originally from Sudan, but she's also the president of the Youth Empowerment Program. When we talk about leading by example, she's somebody that we feel really comfortable that she's leading the right way, the kids, but also somebody that's really we are positioning for future leaders in the community. So Lily, thank you so much for being with us. And the floor is yours to share some welcome remarks with our guests.
Good afternoon, everyone. Before I begin, I would like to thank Aurora Public Schools Superintendent and the members of the APS Board of Education for taking time out of your Saturday to join the African Leadership Group in our community for such an important topic. I would also like to thank parents, students, friends, and families for joining this call. My name is Lillian Hakim, and I'm a junior at Eagle Crest High School. As Papa mentioned, I'm the president of the African Leadership Group Youth Empowerment Program. As a daughter of immigrant parents from Sudan, I know how hard it is to navigate through the school system with critical barriers such as the language, academic preparation, and culture. With the help from the African Leadership Group Family Engagement Team, immigrant families are provided with the tools and resources needed to assist with the school system hurdle. The ALG Youth Empowerment Program was created to provide a comfortable space for first and second generation immigrant kids ages 5 to 16 to share their thoughts, their feelings, struggles, and challenges in school, home, and in their communities. One of my highlights last year was having the opportunity to lobby for 2 representatives and 1 senator regarding the full-day kindergarten bill that was introduced and eventually passed. Education is very important to me, my family, and the entire community. The majority of students in our youth empowerment program are in the APS district. I hope this session will provide more resources and assistance to our families during these uncertain times. My ask today of the superintendent and the board members is that we build a partnership between the districts and our communities. As the president of the African Leadership Group Youth Empowerment Program, we are really looking forward to working together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lily, and thank you for the warm welcome and also having a specific ask to the superintendent and the board of directors that as a community, we are seeking for a partnership and collaboration, and well said coming from you as a student. So thank you so much. Now, this is a time where we're gonna bring our main speaker, and Superintendent Rico. We all know him, interacting with him throughout the city on different occasions. And we really wanna thank you, Superintendent, for taking the time. And as you can imagine, this is a time also as a community, we have a lot of questions regarding the current situation that we are living in. So we wanted you to know that we really appreciate and look forward to the information you're gonna be sharing with us. Thank you so much, and the floor is yours. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Papa. Thank you, all of you. Thank you for that wonderful welcome from our student. And glad to be here with all of you. I wish we were, of course, in person, but as we all know, we're all taking the proper safe precautions during this time of crisis. I want to thank you again for the opportunity to be here. I'm also joined by Patty Moon, who's the district's Chief Communications Officer. And as you saw, several of the members of Board of the Education will be speaking as well. I wanted to take the chance to walk you through some of the work that we've done in response to COVID-19. I think Papa said it well, that we all have a role to play. We recognize that the role that we play is for you, but we also know that we can't do it without you. And so we want to make sure you understand how we have been responding, how we've been using the community's resources, and be open to hearing other ideas about how we can respond or how we can shift our response, particularly as we go into the summer and begin planning for the fall. So just to give you a sense of the work that we've been doing, next slide, please. In 2018, just to give you a little background, the district launched what we call the APS CARES program, which was our comprehensive health and safety framework. As you can see on the screen in front of you, it was our effort to bring all of our health and safety work under one umbrella so we could clearly express that and explain that to the community, and so that we had a stronger coordination and collaboration around that work. We've done a lot of communication around that. That plan does include a pandemic plan for how we would respond in the case of a pandemic, and largely the work that we've been doing and the efforts we've had have been emanating out of that pandemic plan. Now, of course, no one could tell you that this was going to happen or how this would happen, and so there's a lot of uncertainty, but we continue to navigate through that from a very solid foundation, backed by our board's commitment to our overall mission as a district and our vision, but then in implementing this work and having a comprehensive approach to the community. Next slide, please. Key to our work and key to that response is staying in very close contact with our local and state health departments and what they're telling us. We are in regular connections with Tri-County Health, which is the health department that oversees Adams, Arapahoe, and Douglas County. Dr. John Douglas, he and I are on a call weekly, trying to understand what's the progression of the disease, or the virus, what's the progression of the medical needs, what are the requirements to be safe and healthy in that. Next slide, please. And we continue to monitor that work. As you may or may not know, there's a standing website for the state that provides a lot of information and data. We track that on a regular basis as well. There's not information that we have special access to, but we are watching it closer than some people to really understand what's happening, and particularly what's happening, obviously, in our area and our community. Whenever we think about what our next steps might be, whether it was looking at continuing in remote learning and not having in-person learning, when we think about the possibility of whether we will have in-person graduations, when we think about how we would use our buildings, and when we think about what the fall might look like, the first step for us is to understand that health and safety environment as explained to us by Tri-County, and then to understand how that can apply in our physical circumstances. So I want to make sure that you have confidence that we are not making health decisions. We are not making decisions around what is a good practice as far as health. We are following the public health advice that we get from the experts in that space, and then applying it to our educational environment. Next slide, please. One of the first things that we did, next slide, as we made the decision on March 12th to extend our spring break an extra week, we realized that families were not in a position to have planned for an extended time away from school or out of school. So I believe we were one of the first districts in the state to stand up a meal program. Our meal program began on March 17th. And since then, Monday through Friday at 16 sites throughout the city, we have been providing meals to whoever comes. As of yesterday, we hit the 500,000 mark as far as the number of meals that we have provided. On Friday, we also, in addition to daily meals, we provide a lot of durable, shelf-stable things that people can take home over the weekend. We plan on continuing that at least through the summer, and then we'll figure out what happens into the fall as we think about what school looks like and going into that process. But we want to make sure that our kids have a stable environment, and making sure that there is food security has been a key to that. We are very thankful to the community and for donors in particular to help us pay for that. We are feeding a lot of adults as well as children. For the children, we get some support from the federal government for that, but for the adults, that is a cost that comes out of the district. And so we try to raise funds and get support from various foundations. There's been a lot of generous folks, a lot of generous individuals who helped us on that. If you have not seen any of our food supply sites, or if that's something you or someone you know may have need of, you can see on the screen there where our locations are. We've been fairly consistent, come rain or shine, about those locations. And we are seeing a steady demand there of about 4,000 to 5,000 people a day who come to get that support. Next slide, please. The second thing that we did after making sure that we had some stability with food was to begin to design a remote learning program. Again, this was not something that was predicted. And so over the course of roughly 10 days, 12 days, our team designed and stood up a remote learning platform, which was a tremendous job by our academic team to create that and to get that out there. What then followed was a recognition that a lot of our families may not have access to technology. So we very quickly established at 3 different times over in March opportunities for families to pick up technology. So far, we've handed out more than 18,000 individual Chromebooks, laptops, other devices to families. We still get the occasional request from families either through our help desk or through other means, and we are responding to those on kind of a one-to-one basis, because we know that we perhaps didn't hit everybody, but still, having hit 18,000 people, we feel that we've done a fairly comprehensive job in reaching out to the community and being able to connect them to that opportunity to have access to our remote learning platform. Next slide, please. And then the third major component that we were able to put into place were our mental health supports. Thanks to this community's generosity, we passed a bill in 2018 that allowed us just this last year to hire more than 100 mental health professionals to be in our buildings during this year. We recognize that during this particular time with the social isolation and other issues that may arise, those mental health issues certainly didn't go away. They were perhaps exacerbated. So we stood up a hotline and a way for our families and our students to access those mental health supports and those mental health professionals. So each week we are serving students directly through Zoom, not Zoom platforms, but Google Hangouts or Meets, other video conferencing or telephone platforms to provide them that mental health support. Also, yesterday we launched telehealth support for our staff as well, to make sure that they have access to mental health support, because they're experiencing the same stresses that all of our families are as well, with their families at home and trying to navigate what are very uncertain times. So we're excited about the opportunity to provide that support. We see that need, and we're working closely also with the Aurora Mental Health Center to try and provide and address that need, not just through the school year, but into the summer as well. Next slide. But coming back to our remote learning platform, I want you to know that it's working fairly well. We know that there continue to be challenges with that, but we have most of our interactions between our students and our teachers through Google platforms, which are fairly accessible and easy to navigate. Our students in grades K through 5 are using a platform that we call iReady, which is a platform they were already using for the most part in their elementary schools. So the transition hopefully was relatively smooth for them, that they didn't have to learn a new platform. Students in grades 6 through 12 were using Edgenuity. And again, many of our students in secondary school were already using that platform. And so there was a level of consistency in that transition for them, that they didn't have to learn a whole new platform. Next slide, please. One of the first things that we did when we created our remote learning platform is we wanted to be very clear about our expectations. So if you go to that learning platform, and there's a link for it, or a link for it at the end of this presentation, you'll see that there's a expectations page, and there's expectations for teachers, for parents, for students, so that there's a clarity, hopefully, in the conversation around what is it we're asking people to do, and also what is it we're not asking people to do. So in our grades preschool through 8th, we wanted to make sure that people understood that this was about access, making sure that people had an opportunity to continue to learn, to continue to keep up their studies and move through that process. Grades 9 through 10, we wanted to up that a little bit so that there was more direct coursework and an opportunity to receive grades for students' work. And then obviously grades 11 through 12. We wanted to make sure we kept students on track for graduation. We know that's an important milestone. We don't want life to stop during this health crisis. We need to keep moving things forward. So we wanted to make sure that that provided that opportunity. What's really important, I think, is that parents and students need to make sure that they are in regular communication with their teachers or with their school leaders if the work is not challenging enough, or if it's too challenging, to talk about how do we adjust that? How do we make sure that for you and your individual family that it can meet those needs? Because no one is trying to add stress in this period of time, but we also don't want students where possible to not fall behind, and trying to strike the right chord in that is about that relationship with the classroom teacher, trying to connect with them to get the right level of support. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, this is the link and the landing site for that remote learning platform. As you can see, across the middle of the page in that dark blue line is a link to where we have those expectations for everyone. We hope that people start there and really see as an entry point, what am I being asked to do? What's the thing that, well, what's my role to play, to use Papa's words, in this space, to try to understand how I can support my student, or how I can connect with a teacher, or how I as a student can interact with this process. And as we've gone through that process, we've seen a level of consistency and success. Next slide, please. As we see a reasonably high number of our students and teachers connecting, that number varies week to week, as you might imagine, day to day. But over time, we have seen a high level of people engage and connect. Next slide, please. We're also excited about the number of students who have checked out library books and utilize those resources, as trying to build those reading skills and that strength. We're excited to have had that access to that resource. Last year, we first developed this partnership with the Aurora Public Library to allow this to happen. We're so excited we already had that in place, and we're able to just turn that over to our students to be able to access that. Next slide, please. But if you're like me, you're not an IT professional, you may have challenges, and so we also have our help desk, which has been available to families. They have answered nearly 2,000 calls over the last several weeks, but also individual teachers and schools have addressed those calls. We know those numbers are higher. We've been able to provide some language services there, including some direct bilingual translation with English and Spanish, and then also telephone interpretation for the other languages that we know are prevalent within the Aurora community. You can always call that help desk and leave a message, or you can also call directly to your school and leave a message, and we can try and connect you to some of those resources. Next slide, please. One more. We've tried to keep a regular communication pattern with our community and our family, sending out emails and phone calls in our top 11 languages. If for some reason you have not been receiving those emails or phone calls, it could be that we don't have up-to-date information for you. And so we've probably been trying to get a hold of you. So please go into our system or try to connect through our website and see if we can get your updated information to make sure that we have the right contact information for you. We've also put out significant social media posts, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We were very excited this last weekend. We had our virtual prom, and that was all on social media, where we got a lot of kids involved through Facebook and through Instagram and through TikTok as well, to try and mark that rite of passage for our students and keep them connected to the broader community. There was so much activity that the website for Aurora TV crashed, and so we had to find other mechanisms of getting that opportunity out to kids, but we were excited that thousands of our families and kids connected to that opportunity to celebrate and to recognize that life continues, and we keep going even through these challenges. Next slide, please. Our school staff are sending out regular communications, and we're also hosting virtual parent coffees and parent meetings to keep everyone engaged. Our families, liaisons, our social workers, our counselors, and some of those mental health professionals I talked about before continue to reach out directly to families, especially if families had previously indicated they needed additional support. We have been trying to reach out and make sure we have those connections. Next slide, please. Next slide. If you go to our website, right across the banner, we have our COVID-19 banner. You can click on that and get the latest information. We keep that updated. We are regularly updating that with new information about what supports we have, what things we're putting in place, and how we can address the needs of this community. Next slide. That's what I have by way of presentation. I wanted to just take a moment and say thank you for your partnership and for bringing the community together. But Papa, now I know that you wanted to spend some time responding to questions. Am I going to read off the chat, or are you going to have someone feed those to me, or how would you like to?
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Superintendent, for those valuable information. And and now if some of you already started chatting your question, we have some parent superintendent that will be opening the mic and they will ask the question directly. And I have the order, and Usman, if you are ready. So I think we have the first person asking question is Abdul Pesima. So Abdul, if you, when you come in, just say your name and ask your question directly to Superintendent.
Okay, thank you very much, Papa. Thank you very much, Superintendent. Thank you for taking the time to come over to talk to us. I have two questions, really. One of them is, how is APS marking their online courses? Does it affect their grades, the student grades, up or down?
Okay. So
that's the second one, or just after the answer?
Go ahead, ask the second one.
Okay, the second one is, what about the standardized testing? How are we going to make it even or equal? That's the aspect, the SAT and the APS. I don't know whether they do ACT, whether you guys do ACT also there, but how are you going to work out that?
Sure, thank you for the questions. So as you saw in the earlier slide, for elementary grades, we are not providing grades. It is for access and to make sure that students can continue on their process. Students will advance unless families want them to be retained in their grade, unless you want them to be held back, they will advance to the next grade. For secondary grades, we are providing grades, but it's really an opportunity for students to improve their grade. Their grades would not decrease from where they were when they left on March 12th. But if they want an opportunity to improve that grade, they have that opportunity through the remote learning platform. In the second question around standardized testing, so the state is the one who is in charge of all of the standardized testing, the SATs, the Colorado Measures of Academic Standards, CMAS, and other things. And they have suspended, they will not have any of those standardized tests for this school year. And so coming back into next school year, the governor, I believe a few weeks ago, announced that the plan would be to have the SAT early in the year for those people who are currently juniors but didn't get a chance to take it this year. They would have a chance to take it early in their senior year. They also would have another chance to take that, you can take the SAT multiple times, but the free opportunity provided to those folks would happen early in the year. We certainly want to do everything we can to help students to get prepared for that. We have had for the last several years SAT prep work. I don't know yet what we can do to provide a level of that preparation depending on how early it happens in the school year, but we certainly want to support students in that process.
Thank you so much, Superintendent. And yes, I have some question. People are chatting in their question. And yes, please keep chatting in. So what I'm going to do, so we have a lot of questions for Superintendent. And if we don't get to answer all your questions, just know we will send it to his office and they will get back to you. So the next person asking question is Jamal. So Jamal, the floor is yours.
Yes. How can we minimize the equity impact that emergency changes might have on different groups of students, faculty, and staff?
Thank you for the question. Look, there's going to be a tremendous impact for all of our students, and there's no pretending otherwise. But we also know that the more challenges our students have, the greater impact it will have. It'll be across a couple of different areas, obviously. As far as in the educational space, one of the things that we will need to do early on in our next school year is have some level of testing, some level of way of evaluating where our students are and where we need to make up some gaps that happen from this whatever learning loss that's happened over this last quarter of this year. And then try to address our resources, our responses to where those greatest gaps are, where those greatest issues are impacting our students.
Yeah. So thank you. And I'm going to read off a question on the chat. And this one came from Tiffany. Tiffany is asking Superintendent, grade for senior, for the class they are not taking, how would it appear on the transcript? And when is the decision on graduation going to be made?
So I apologize, Tiffany, I don't recall how we will be transcripting those classes. And if you can get your information to Papa, I can get your direct answer off. I don't recall that off the top of my head. How it will appear on the class on your transcript. But as far as graduation, right now we are tentatively planning for an in-person graduation in July. We are working with the health department to try and determine if that is going to be feasible and what it would look like. If that were to happen in July, likely it would happen with serious social distancing measures in place, probably a limited, if any, audience, and with our and not looking like one of our traditional graduations. But we would like to see if we can make that happen in July, but that will depend upon what directives we get from our public health department.
So thank you. And the next parent we have asking a question is Velver. Velver, the floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So my question is safety. I've experienced some traumatic issues this year. I have 2 students, one in high school and one in middle school. And when it came to gun safety and gun threats, it was a problem with APS communicating with the parents in a timely manner. Moving forward to next year, what are your plans in place for the safety measures of our students?
Thank you for the question. In all honesty, right now, we are trying to figure out what school will look like in the fall. Whether or not there is in-person school, how many students we can have in school, all of those things. Those decisions will then dictate what the next decision is, right? Obviously, if we need to think about different spacing or different things, that will dictate how we move forward. In general, I'm sorry if you've experienced different bad episodes with us, and I certainly want to apologize for that. But what I can say is, I think that we have taken significant measures to try and address whenever someone feels unsafe, be it because of health measures or gun safety or whatever else. But we will try to continually stay in contact with our community, our parents, our community leaders, to understand what the community sees that we may not see, or what the community is hearing about. Because often, if there are issues, for example, between groups or between people, we are not necessarily the first ones to know about it. And so we appreciate hearing from our parents and our community leaders who can educate us around some of those issues.
Thank you, Superintendent. And the next person asking a question is one of our students, Miriam. Miriam, the floor is yours.
First, I would like to thank the superintendent and all the board of directors for coming. I really appreciate it. My question is, how will this situation impact incoming freshmen, especially considering they're supposed to be preparing for high school at this time? So how will it impact them when they're starting in the fall, if they're starting in the fall?
Where are you going to start school?
I'm not sure yet.
Okay. Well, thank you for the question. I will tell you that's a question I answer every day because my daughter will be an incoming freshman next year. And the answer I give her is, I'm not sure yet. We are trying to understand what safety will look like as far as providing an appropriate safe environment for our students. And we want to understand what that means as far as how we can set up classes, how we can provide transportation, all those things. We have several teams working right now on what we call our recovery plan to try and answer a lot of those questions. Right now, our timeline is to bring that plan to the board in June, to talk with the board throughout June around what that can look like, and then try to be able to announce to the community in mid to late June what that plan looks like. Once we are able to do that, then individual schools will then be able to identify what their structures will look like and what their schedules will look like.
Thank you, Superintendent. And the next person asking is a student as well. Farmer, the floor is yours. If you can unmute yourself. Okay, so now, yes, go ahead.
I would like to thank Superintendent Rico Moore for joining us. My question is that I understand that kids don't have enough lessons or like breakdown of what they're learning. So my question is, can teachers add more lessons / breakdown videos so they can have all the information that they need?
Thank you very much. Our teachers are working hard, I think, to try and figure out what's the right level of lesson planning and lesson and direct instruction to provide to our students. And we hear every day from families and students who say we don't have enough, and others who say we have too much. And so we try to respond to those individual students and families to try and figure out what those supports are. What I would recommend to you is to make sure that you and your parents. Abdul, you may want to mute your line there. You should connect with your parents and connect with your teacher and talk about how do they better address what your particular needs are and what you're seeing from your own experience on that platform.
Thank you. Thank you, Superintendent. And the next person we have asking question is Alassane Ba. Alassane, the floor is yours. Uzi, can you unmute Alassane?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Alassane.
Thank you so much, Papa, and thanks to the superintendent and all the board members that are attending. You know, first off, I just like to say COVID is real. I work in healthcare and I have provided direct care to patients that are COVID positive, and I have seen some of them lose their life to this. So let's listen to our leaders and our public health officials out there and whatever advice they're giving us, making sure we are following those advices. And my question is geared towards the special needs kids. We are in uncharted territories here where these special needs kids are being removed from their structured school environment, and they will be removed from it for a very, very, very long time. So my question is, what kind of resources and services is the school district providing to those kids, special needs kids, making sure that they are not going to regress even far more by the time they go back to school again? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And first of all, thank you so much for your work and your dedication taking care of this community and so many people who are suffering with illness right now. Yeah, our special needs students are, you know, my heart breaks for where we are as far as our ability to provide them with consistency. This is particularly jarring for them and their families, and we are very aware of that. As you likely know, each of our special needs students has something called an IEP, an Individualized Educational Plan. One of the first things that we did was start deploying our staff to work directly with families around those IEPs to try and understand what supports on an individual basis that we could provide, what supports were needed. And we've had hundreds of those IEP meetings with families to try and understand how to meet those needs. The more difficult ones obviously are the needs that require in-person support, right? Things like speech pathology, which are very difficult to deliver remotely, or other specific hands-on things. We are trying to work with families to help them navigate this time. And we know that when we are able to connect in person, one of our first priorities has to be making up time for those families and those students, making up and trying to bring them back into that level of consistency. But it has been and will be a very difficult thing for us to navigate.
Thank you so much, Superintendent. And I know we have a lot of questions. I can tell you won't be able to get to everyone. So I'm going to be calling on a couple of people. And if we did not answer your question, I promise you I'll get your contact info to Superintendent office so they can get back to you. So the next person we have is Fish Abraheli.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Fish.
All right. Thank you, Papa, for the leadership. And thank you, Mr. Superintendent, for coming and address these issues. And the board members, I would like to ask a question, which is, I'm asking as a board member, board of directors of ALG. I've been working with Papa for the last 13 years. And it means a lot when we work together. So the first question I have is, I'm sure APS, the biggest challenge APS is facing, and how would you like ALG to be involved on the side of parents, students, and we are also community leaders that would like to help, but would like to know the major challenge and how would you like us to be involved? And the second question, it could be also for everybody in the board members. I know an effective communication is very important in life. And so effective communication among parents, teachers, and students, specifically in the remote learning time right now, is very important and challenging. How is APS ready and handling it to be effective, to communicate effectively, especially when you don't see the student or the parents? The students are not physically present in school and the teachers are not there and the class size is not known. The class size is everywhere. So how is APS effectively communicating? Thank you again.
Thank you for the questions and for the offer. I would say it's tough to identify what the biggest challenge for APS is now because the challenges are ever evolving and they are so much about the external environment when we're talking about COVID. It's not specific to APS, obviously, it's something that is impacting the world. And we are just trying to set expectations in our corner of the world. I'd say the biggest challenge that we right now are facing is trying to navigate what will school look like in the fall and how do we provide that educational support for families in the fall. One of the best ways that ALG and others can help us is by continually to let us know what are you seeing as far as community needs, because we are going to try to respond to what we think the community needs, to what we think are issues in the community. And obviously, if we're wrong about that, we need to understand that we need to hear that. And we try to reach out through a variety of mechanisms, including through formats like this, to understand that. I hope that in the next several months, we also have a set of focus groups with different stakeholders throughout the community, business, real estate, higher education, whoever, to understand how the different stakeholders are going to respond to this crisis, because those responses all have an impact on us and they have an impact on you in different ways, obviously. To the second question as to the effectiveness of communication, it's tough for the speaker to evaluate the effectiveness of their communication. Really, it's the listener who gets to evaluate the effectiveness of that. So you'll have to tell us if we're being effective in some of that. What we try to gauge is, depending on the type of communication, are we getting the response that we expected? So when we think about our food distribution, for example, we think that our communication there has been effective. When we look at the numbers, when we look at the consistency around that, we believe that's been an effective way of communicating with the community around that resource. When we think about our remote learning platform, that really is, as you've heard from some of our students, I think that is a student by student kind of communication that has to happen with their teachers and with their building leaders to understand, are we effectively supporting you? And so we were trying to encourage as much as possible parents and teachers to engage in some of those virtual parent coffees, those virtual meetings that schools are having, to really make sure that we can hear back from you if what we're doing is effective or not.
Thank you, Superintendent. And Patrick Defoe, you are next on the list asking question. All right, Patrick, go ahead.
Okay, Superintendent, thank you very much for taking the time today. My question is, what especially is APS doing to ensure that the cancellation of school because of the COVID-19 is not exacerbating inequities that already exist in education? Specifically, how does this apply to students whose native language is not English?
How is it that everybody has these ALG backdrops and I don't have one? Right?
We'll add you on the list, Superintendent.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Patrick, thank you for the question. I think it's similar to something that I tried to respond to earlier, so I apologize if I have not been effective in that communication. I think we recognize that there are just a host of challenges that people in our community are facing right now. Everything from food and housing insecurity to language barriers to a whole host of things everyone's trying to navigate. And all of those things are exacerbating their educational challenges. We recognize that if those basic needs are not being met, then it's tough to access educational opportunities. We also recognize that when we stood up our educational platform, it was meant to be a crisis response. It was a response to what was going on in the immediate sense. And so as we have navigated that crisis to provide those resources, we are very excited about the fact that our platform can be instantly translated into multiple languages, and that a lot of the language resources that students had at school are still available online. It's just a slower response time and a slower turnaround time, which is significant for students and families. We recognize that. But we continue to try and improve our understanding of what students and families need. As we go into the fall, to the extent that we need to continue any type of remote learning, it will look differently. It will look differently because we'll have some time to plan that, we'll have some time to think about it, and try to accelerate students' learning and to decrease any gaps that have been created during this health crisis.
Okay, so we have time for one more, and I promise you that if we did not read your question or if you did not get to ask your question, I promise you we will get your question to Superintendent. So next we have Astu, and you are unmuted. Go ahead.
Hello, good evening, everyone. My question is to the Superintendent. My name is Astu. I'm a mother of 3 kids going to APS. So how do you feel APS is serving immigrant children? And what are you implementing to improve educational opportunities for immigrant kids?
Thank you for the question. I don't know whether or not to answer in a broader context or specifically in response to our current environment. Right? I would say in our current environment, none of us are where we want to be, and none of us are providing the level of service we'd like to provide to any of our students. And that is a hard pill to swallow, but that is our current reality. And we want to be in a better place, and we hope that both the environment allows us to be, and also that circumstances allow us to be in a better space. In the broader sense, I believe that we had strong structures in place for serving our immigrant families, but that's always a dynamic thing, right? Continually to understand what the needs are as we have different immigrant communities, right? We have different needs, right? We talk about how we have, students from 130 countries speaking 160 languages. Now, clearly for students in our top 11 languages, for example, we have stronger supports for. But for students who speak languages where they may be very few in the community or very few, we don't have strong supports. So I think our supports really vary across that. But the work that we've done in the Welcome Center and the work that we've done across, for example, in the Innovation Zone with our 5 schools there and Parents in Action really connecting closer with families, and even the work that we've done to try and establish partnerships and networks throughout the community, I think are very strong examples of good work that we're doing throughout the community. But certainly in the broader sense and certainly in the specific context, there's more that we believe we need to do and want to do to serve our families.
we also wanted to make sure that we could also share some of the things that we observe, and accordingly as those things are working and it's going well. So we wanted also to have the opportunity for you to hear from the parents some of the things that they've noticed that's currently working and they're very happy. So I have a couple of parents that would like to say a couple of things with regard to that. So Velver, please, if you could share with superintendent and the board some of the things that you noted that's currently working also.
Awesome, awesome. Well, let's talk about the communication that you guys have with parents. I am overwhelmed with the communication. My son goes to range room, my dad goes to morale check, and how you guys communicate any type of changes within the school, it is always on time. Multiple messages, either via text or email. I am appreciative of that. I think it's awesome in how through all of this, you guys are handling, trying to communicate with my kids when they had an issue. The teacher, of course, couldn't solve it, so we had to go to the help desk, and it took a week for them to fix the glitch, but we got it taken care of. So I just want to thank you for all that you are doing, trying to help communicate with the parents that actually we need help. It's hard trying to teach our kids, and we don't know half of the stuff they're being taught, but I just want to say thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I want to also add, and we're going to be hearing for some of the board of directors here shortly, but personally, I want to add, some of the relationship I've developed with some of the board of directors, their presence in the community, for community members to be able to put a face in the name, but also to know that they are accessible, so we can go and have access to them, and also them coming and taking part of some of the events that we put together. We really, really appreciate that, and it meant a lot. So with that said, I know most of you are muted, but we definitely want to give a big round of applause to Superintendent for joining us. So we really appreciate all the comments. And I think this is the time for the first raffle. And Superintendent, we want to thank you, and we will be coming back with the closing remarks. So I'm going to turn the floor to Lori, and she will tell you how the raffle works. Lori, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you, Papa. And thank you, Lily, for such an amazing speech. And Superintendent, thank you for sharing such valuable information with us. And to the board, thank you for taking time to be with us today. All right, so raffle number 1. As Papa shared with you, we will have 3 raffles throughout the event. The prizes will consist of 1 orange or 1 black shirt, and then 1 African Impact mug. All right, here are the instructions. And I'll share the instructions with you one time, and I don't think I have to share them with you raffle 2 and 3. So we're gonna pick a number between 50 and 200, and you will send your numbers via chat. Now, there may be 2 or 3 people with the same number, that's okay. The first person to chat in their number, and we will look at the timestamp, we will go with that person. So when chatting in your number, just please make sure you have your first and your last name on your video screen. Because if not, then you'll have to, if it's not on your screen, then we need your first and last name. So the numbers are pre-selected, and the winner will be the person who selects the actual number or the number closest to the number. So you'll have 20 seconds to chat in your number, and I'm gonna start the time when it's ready. When I say go, then that's when we'll start. The raffle numbers will be displayed on the screen after your 20 seconds. Amadou will take the numbers and the people, compile those, and we'll announce the winners at the end of the event. So again, if you have not registered via Eventbrite, we will not have your email. So chat in your email address if you have not registered through Eventbrite. All right, I'm getting my timer ready. So when I say go, I want you to chat your numbers and your name. You have 20 seconds. Ready, set, go.
Make sure you're not chatting it to me. Make sure you chat to everyone, because I'm getting the private messages.
That's mean like you're gonna owe everybody a prize, Uzi.
And I had like 6 people privately message me.
2.
So Patrick, Velvet, make sure you guys are doing it on the main group, main chat.
Time.
All right, what's the winning number, Lori?
All right, let me get it. The winning number is
130. Oh, anybody pick 130? Did anybody pick 130? All right. So, Lori, if nobody had 130, how's it gonna work then?
So again, if it's closest to 130, the person closest to 130 who came in, like I said, the timestamp wins.
All right. Well,
All right.
thank you. I know I was not the lucky winner, so I know for sure. So I never.
Papa, you were 20 points off.
Do you have to speak it that loud, Amadou? All right, thank you again, Superintendent. And so the next speaker we have is Deborah. And Deborah, thank you so much for joining us and being with here this evening. You are very familiar with the community as you've been to different events. So thank you for being with us, and the floor is yours. Thank you, Deborah.
Well, thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here with you today. I was delighted to get the invitation and happy to receive it. As you can see here, I'm the Secretary of the Board of Education. I also happen to be a pastor of Fireside Christian Church, which is a home church for Metro Denver. And I'm a retired teacher and principal for Aurora Public Schools. So I wear a couple of different hats that I trade around. I've always been bivocational and hopefully always bring both of those aspects to who I am and what I do. And I'll be bringing that to you today as well. As I was looking through some of the ideas for topics for conversation today, one of those topics was, is it okay to feel not okay? And so that's, I gravitated right to that one. And I will, in the mystery right now, I will just cut to the chase and I'll tell you that it is definitely okay to feel not okay. This is for adults as well as kids. Everyone is in a process right now of sometimes feeling okay and sometimes feeling very much not okay. So I think it helps us to examine why it is we're not feeling okay. When we acknowledge that and say, this is what we're in right now, then we're able to say, oh, okay, I get it. I'm not the only one who's feeling this way. I'm not the only one who's feeling isolated. I'm not the only one who has trouble figuring out how to help my child at home. I'm not the only student who is struggling with either too much to do or not enough to do and just feeling overwhelmed. So we're in the middle of a global pandemic. We're fighting a virus that we've never fought before. We don't know how to fight it. A virus that attacks multiple organs of our bodies, a virus that kills. The statistics as of today, or as of yesterday, actually 820 people in Colorado have died, more than 65,000 in the US, more than 239,000 worldwide. And right here in Adams and Arapahoe County, 214 people have died. It's bringing our healthcare workers to their knees in terms of being exhausted and in despair even. So yes, it is totally okay to feel not okay. It's all about this change. Life is about change, and this is an unprecedented kind of change that we're having right now. We experience change all our lives and we welcome it. We're born as babies, we become teens, we become adults, we experience life passages from graduation to marriage to job changes. All of those things happen and they are celebrated changes. When we study science, we look for ways that one agent changes another agent. When we study social studies, we're looking for how one event or group of people or geographic location changes other people. So we are well aware of change. one of the funniest things for me as I think about change was, I remember a few years ago when personal computers were just coming in to play. And I was wondering, am I going to want a home computer? Am I going to want that? Well, am I ever going to send email? What's this internet stuff? I didn't know. It was brand new. And yet here we are today, Zooming. And without this technology, we would be completely isolated from each other. So we've gone from a situation where we didn't have technology, we didn't have the internet, for instance. And in that change, there were some who were very afraid of that change, very afraid of what that might do. It would cut us off from each other because we'd be so involved with the technology. To today, when without that technology, we would be isolated even more. So this coronavirus, this COVID-19, has been the kind of change that has just pulled the rug out from under us. It has taken our breath away. It has brought us to a place of social distancing when, as human species, we want to be together, we want to huddle up close, and yet now we can't. We're wearing face masks even when we are distanced. That covers up our smile. People can't see that we're being friendly, and you have to get closer to really see what the eyes are doing when you smile with your eyes. It's really hard to communicate that way, no matter what language you're speaking. It's hard without the smile. I pick up my groceries now from the grocery store. I don't even go in. I order. Someone comes out. They stick it in the trunk. I drive off. It's a very different situation. And now school, with this emergency plan instead of an educational plan, which is exactly what we needed for this situation. But it feels so different, so different. The economy is shaky. Stock market is all over the place. We thought it was going to be 2 weeks, 2 months. Who knows what's going to happen next? Part of that uncertainty is that change that's catching us off guard. So yes, it's definitely okay to feel not okay. Raw emotions really come grab us at this time. There's chaos involved and isolation, so there's grief, there's loss, there's anger, there's tears. I know for myself, I start reaching at my husband sometimes when I don't always do that, but you just, things get to you and you start to say things that you didn't always mean to do. We lose sleep, and that just makes us more unhealthy. So in case I haven't made my point yet, let me say it again. It's definitely okay to feel not okay. I mean, who wouldn't feel not okay? If you're someone who's feeling 100% okay right now, there's something wrong. You're not paying attention. So give yourself permission to not feel okay. Next slide, please. Oh, back up one more. But if you're only feeling not okay, there's also something wrong, and we need to be careful about that. We, as human beings, are resilient. We're incredibly resilient. Kids more than adults, and that gives me great hope here. But I know that how we can become resilient is to make sure that even in this pandemic crisis that none of us have faced before, and we're not really sure how to do it, that there's some things we can do to feel better and to feel more resilient. And one of those things is to put into words how we're feeling and then to take action. So by doing that, it's like riding the waves. I mentioned with me, there are days when I feel great and other days where this flood of emotion just washes over me. And I'm learning to ride those waves, and I hope that's what you can do too. Part of the way we can ride the waves is by being smart. Control what you can control. Let go of things that you can't control. There's so much that's out of our control right now, but we can do some things. We can make some plans as long as we're making contingency plans to go along with them. We need a plan A, a plan B, a plan C. We need to be okay with letting go of the plan that really was our first choice and being able to say, let's do this one instead. If you're making that plan ahead of time, you feel better about switching to that next plan instead of having to fall into, now I got to come up with something else. You already have something in mind. You already have a plan there. That's part of being smart. We need to be flexible. We need to take breaks when we need breaks. So kids, as you're working and you're thinking this is too much or this is not enough, reach out and say something. Put that into words. Take a break. Don't do it if it's too much. Ask for more if you need more. Set priorities. Learn how to say no. All those things are important to help us feel like we're taking control over something that when we have lost control. What we can do for this is practice social distancing, and that's what we're doing. We can wear a face mask. We can wash our hands, wash our hands, wash our hands, wash our hands. This is something that we have to do, and this is something that we can do right now. And then we can look for hope. If we aren't looking for hope, we're going to get stuck. And so keep looking for ways, for things for which you're thankful. Be grateful for things that come along your way. Look for those hopeful signs. You know, in terms of this virus, the hopeful signs are that most people have mild symptoms or no symptoms at all if they get sick. That most people recover from COVID if they get sick. There are drug therapies that are looking very promising, vaccines that are down the road not too far away. And Colorado is flattening the curve. That's what we're doing all this for. We're flattening the curve. We are in the downhill slide in terms of new hospitalizations here in Colorado. That is really, really good news. APS is developing educational plans now, not just emergency plans. And that is very hopeful. That's a good sign that things are turning around. We need to be flexible and we need to be ready to change some more because we still don't know what's happening. There's that word again that we love to hate, that change word, but that's okay. Life is all about change and we can do this. We can learn to ride the waves. We've got this. If you have any questions, I can try to answer them.
Yes, thank you so much, Debbie. Thank you so much for those words and that reminder. So yes, we do have a couple of questions from community members, and here are two parents that had question for you. Kadi, I know you had a question, and if you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi, Deborah, and can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, hi, Deborah. Thank you for all your hard work. We know how hard it is during this time. My question is this: as a parent, could barely assist their kids, like there are people who are working from home full time, or some of them, they have barrier language. So as a parent could barely assist their kids, don't you think that it would be unfortunate for these kids to be penalized, as they are more proactive than reactive when they are in class with the teacher? They have the teacher in front of them. The interaction is so easy, and then they become more proactive than reactive. But having a parent at home who's working full-time and then could barely assist you, or you have your parents, they have barrier language, and then you only doing your work with your computer, and then the teacher is here only to assign and then grade. So don't you think that it will be unfortunate for these kids to be penalized?
Thanks for asking that question. This is not ideal. This is clearly an emergency with resources to help kids and parents get through this time. It's very difficult to do this remotely. I absolutely agree. I have two daughters who are teachers in Aurora Public Schools. Both of them are trying to teach their class of students while they have their own kids at home. One of them has elementary age kids, 2 elementary age and 1 middle schooler. The other one has a toddler, a year and a half old, running around and throwing basketballs at her head while she's trying to teach class. It is incredibly difficult. There's no doubt about that, to juggle teaching and learning, parenting and teaching, working as a parent and teaching as a parent. And we know for sure that this is going to require a new way of looking at learning as we go forward, whether it's we're in-person learning, how can we make up this time, or whether we're in a combination of in-person and still online, however that looks. I know the district is working hard to try and take away many of those barriers, or as many as they can, but still recognizing that this is not an ideal situation.
Thank you so much, Deborah. And I also want to let all the board of directors, if there's a question that you are hearing now, and when your times come, you would like to clarify, and just take note, and we would love to hear from you on some of this question, and same to the superintendent. I would like also to take this time to really thank the community for showing up. I mean, we cannot take this for granted. This just showcase how we care about our kids' education, and your presence and your voice, your question matters. I cannot thank you enough for taking the time on a Saturday afternoon to be with us. I just wanted to get it out there. So yes, the next question that we have for Debbie is from Dr. Ann. So Dr. Ann, if you can hear us, you can unmute and ask your question.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Papa, for giving me the opportunity to ask a question here. And thank you so much as well for Debbie for a great presentation, because this is in fact hard times. This is my question for Deborah. So Superintendent Moon did mention something about the hire of over 100 mental health and I believe counselors in APS. So this is, the question that I have is, so how do those counselors, how do those mental health workers do assist our students during this remote learning with stress and whatnot? Now they have to deal with unforeseen things that that is at home that they usually don't see, right? How do APS, what does APS have in place to help our students and our kids at home?
Thank you. In the same way that the teachers are working with kids, so are our mental health professionals. For the students who are already in contact with a psychologist, a social worker, counselor, that kind of thing, those caseloads continue through this time. And then for teachers, especially, as they see those red flags start to come up, they can get a hold of counselors to let them know that there's an issue. They, of course, would encourage their student to get a hold of and provide that contact information. You as parents can also do this on our website that Superintendent Munn was showing under the COVID-19 banner. You click on that and mental health supports are part of that as well. So parents and teachers, community members can take a look at that and see how to get kids connected. I know that I mentioned my daughters are teaching. They have mentioned that it's just been in this last week that some of these stressors are really starting to rise to the surface. They have heard it in their students' voices, and they've had conversations in many cases where they've just stopped teaching and just started listening and talking, because that's what was needed the most right then. So being able to, for the teacher to be able to take that moment and provide a little support, a little care, a little guidance, and then provide the contact for the health professional to be able to take it further, is how they're sort of working together in tandem. The other thing that we have is our health clinics are open right now. So whether that's for physical health, or you can make an appointment also for mental health services there as well. So we are trying lots of ways to reach out and help support our kids and our staff to make sure that even during this isolation time that we have ways to connect.
Thank you so much. And I know we have a lot of questions, and we will be sharing the question to the board of director and with your contact information, and they will follow up with you. Again, if you have not registered, please do so, because that's the only way we can have your information and get in contact with you. So we have our next speaker is Marcus Ivy, and Marcus is very familiar with the community. It's so good to see you again, brother, and thank you so much for your service. And the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Papa, and really thank you to the ALG family as well. It is always an honor. Anytime I get an invite, I am always willing to say yes. But I just want to shout out to you all's legal clinic, which I'm always impressed with. I see the reviews and the what goes on, and I'm just really impressed with the legal clinic. Please make myself available if I can as well for that.
Thank you.
So once again, my name is Marcus. I am currently the treasurer of the Board of Education. I'm the immediate past president of the Board of Education, and just started my third year, and just really an honor to be here with the other board members. We kind of make up the original A team, if you will. And so just real honor to be with everyone. But I just want to, if next slide, please, I just want to address kind of a few things. I'm in a very unique situation because I am married to a teacher who teaches in the district. She teaches first graders, and I also have two now. I have two children who are currently in the district. My eldest graduated last year from Vista Peak, and then I have my daughter. She is a junior, headed to her senior year, and so we're dealing with a lot. Some of the questions I heard, we've dealt with. And I also have an 8th grader who's transitioning to his first year, his freshman year. Both will be going to Vista Peak as well. So unique situation that I'm able to watch my wife teach, and I'm able to see and deal with my children as well. I'm a trial attorney, and I'm also a part-time municipal court judge and a magistrate. So I see that other side of it as well. Unfortunately, with the times that we're in, we're still dealing with a lot of crime out there, but we're really trying to help those folks as well. But I really just kind of want to go through some of the tips that have come about, because I think that's really important, and specifically for us, because we're dealing with it as parents, how to deal with our children and the stress that they're dealing with. So the first tip I just want to give is I was a national board member and officer for National PTA, pta.org. I would say go to their website. They have sources. When I was there, we had developed resources for parents for things like this. And it's just another source that you can use, that you can add on to the great resources that APS has at this stage. And we're constantly building our resources through APS, but also through pta.org as well. It's a 123-year-old association, and their whole focus is parent engagement. That's the key. That's all they're about, is how do I get parents involved in the education of their children? And there's nothing more important than that. But through this process, what I've been dealing with and what I've been kind of practicing is how to listen to my kids, essentially, the stress and the things that they're dealing with. And what I've learned is I've learned to just sit back and listen and allow them to express their feelings, whether it's frustration, whether it's anger, whether it's stress, and just really be that ear and let them guide that situation. So I think that's the first thing that we have to do as parents, is just listen, because as it is new for us, it's new for them. And so we need to be able to just sit back and just process what they're saying, and then be able to hopefully not guide the conversation, but hopefully lead them to areas that will hopefully bring about answers. My daughter is she, like I said, she's a junior going to her senior year. She's taking classes at CCA. Her whole goal is, and hopefully things work out, she will graduate not only with her high school diploma, but she will also graduate with her associate's degree. So she'll go into college next year or the year after, if you will, as a junior in college. And so for her, her stress has been, am I going to be able to continue along with those classes so that I can achieve my associate's degree? That's really what her biggest concern is, as well as the fact that she's gifted and talented. So she's feeling stressed on the other end of having too many resources in the sense of homework. And quite frankly, I don't think I've ever seen her work this hard, but that's not a bad thing. A true shout out to the teachers to, especially for some of those students who are in that realm, they need more work. And then you have others who may not need as much work. So it's a balancing act. And the teachers have a tough job. Watching my wife deal with first graders, which quite frankly, the patience that it takes to deal with that blows my mind. They have the patience to deal with her special needs students while also dealing with those students who are higher level for their reading or their math. And those who just sit right in the middle is a challenge when you're doing it via Google platform, when you're using iReady. But it's something that I, as a husband, I am trying to keep her motivated as a teacher, as I am trying to keep my kids motivated as students, and letting them know that at some point in time, this will end. So a couple of the other questions on here: pressure from parents to keep school curriculum going. Here's one of the things that I had learned, and I had talked to a former mentor of mine. One of the things is that the pressure to keep curriculum going shouldn't be on the parents' shoulders. At the end of the day, it's okay if you're not meeting the same level that the teachers are meeting, because teachers are professionals. They've been taught to do this. They've been taught strategies on how to do this. And so you as parents, we as parents, me as a parent, I have not been taught those strategies, but it's okay. I think my goal, and the goal should be for parents, is to help them maintain where they were and try to maintain that and keep pushing forward as much as you can, but also communicating with your teacher as needed. My wife, honestly, she's on video, it feels like all day, meeting with individual parents and meeting with students directly. It's surprising just how smart these first graders are and how much they know, and they're technology savvy. So she's on there constantly. And so my job when she's doing that is to make sure that my 8th grader going into his freshman year, make sure that he has his basics and that he's up to date on his basics. But also, I also have to limit his media access, if you will. We don't really watch a bunch of news around here because I'm not trying to add in that additional stress to them. I'm trying to keep them motivated and keep things going at home. So what I would tell you is be flexible at home. Have a plan, but be flexible. We play badminton here. We are a highly competitive family to the point where people argue, fuss, and fight, but that's the game. But it takes our mind away from the stress of the world, if you will. When school's done for them, we play, whether we sit down and watch a movie, pop popcorn, but we eat dinner every night together and we make something unique. And I think those are part of those things that I'm trying to do, if you will, to create this new normal. The new normal as it is now, we're trying to create a normal at home, but also the academic aspect of it, understanding how much stress it does bring about. I want to make sure that I'm able to meet their needs where they're at. One of the other questions on the slide you see is, should parents reach out to teachers and school systems to say, hey, can we pull back on this or just reach out for help? Absolutely, do. Teachers do have office hours, as do the administrators. So reach out. If you don't have technology, ask. You can still ask. I have been participating in the meetings with staff meetings through the schools that are my schools, and been able to sit there and watch, participate, speak, laugh, and enjoy with some of the things that they're doing. But the teachers are under stress as well, but their main focus is and has always been your students. And that's what they've been about. And so I've been thoroughly impressed with how APS has handled this process in this situation. And we continue to build upon that, and we continue to learn from the mistakes that we're making. And that goes for the teachers just the same. And that goes for me as a parent as well. trying not to stress them, the kids, too much, but also keep them motivated for the work that they're doing. So do reach out to your teachers as need be, as it needs. And Debbie has already talked about it, and that is that there are special needs students, and I know my wife has those meetings, whether it's with the mental health staff, whether it's with any of the IEP folks that she has to deal with, she's handling those as well. So, and that's stress on the teacher as well. So it's okay to also tell your teacher, thank you, because it's a tough job, especially when you as the parent has kind of become the immediate teacher at home. But it's okay to tell them okay, and also to keep them motivated as well as they deal with their own families. But that expectation is there for us in our house. We keep the expectations high for education, and we do as best as we can, whether resources we can find on the website, our APS website, whether it's resources outside of that. Our focus is to make sure that we keep them motivated, make sure that we keep them moving forward. And that's really where it is. And I think as parents, those are kind of the tips that I have, that I've been learning, that I've been dealing with, and I'm still learning, and I'm still pushing. But finally, I'll just say this. One tip that a person gave me, which I thought was kind of funny, but I think it's worth it. Join a homeschool group. Go to Facebook, join a homeschool group. There are homeschool groups that do this. If you got questions sometimes, why not ask them? Get questions, get answers, things of that nature. I think those are valuable things that you can, resources that you can look at. Go to meetup.com and look at the various meetings for homeschooling to get those tips, and understand that those parents have gone through what it's like to have your child at home all day. We don't have to reinvent the wheel, but let's utilize every resource that we possibly can, and also be a support for those as well. So with that, Papa, I just want to say thank you. And once again, it is always an honor to speak, and I hope that I've been able to share some things that maybe can help you all as well. But as always, my information is on the board, as you see. Feel free to call us. We have to have a phone number published. I get calls, I get emails, I answer my calls, and I answer my emails. So please feel free to call me. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much, Marcus. It's, I'm definitely going to be using some of those tips, because I have 3 girls in the house, and sometimes,
right.
As a father with 3 daughters, I run out of option what to do with them. So I will try that Batman game to see how they're going to respond to that. So I need
spades too. Teach them spades.
Yeah. So yes, and Marcus, we have a question from Dr. N. She wanted to ask a question. Dr. N, the floor is yours.
Absolutely. Marcus, thank you so much. Yes, we do want to appreciate you as well, because you are a familiar face at ALG, and just thank you for that. Just so you know, also, my daughter is giving you all kinds of hands up here and, thumbs up here, because she really does believe that in these moments, parents should just stop and listen. And I don't know how many times I hear that, Mama, just stop. Mama, please stop and listen. I just want you to listen. Okay, so I appreciate you reiterating that. But my question is a little bit outside of what you've discussed, okay. If that's okay.
Sure.
I just wanted to ask you, so Aurora has not always been considered friendly to charter schools. What do you believe is the appropriate place for charters? And what do you take into account when considering what charter schools you do or do not recommend for approval?
Sure, absolutely. Charter schools are public schools, and us as a charter authorizer, I think we actually have the most thorough process for how we evaluate potential new charters. And so I do believe that there's a place for charters. Originally, charters, when they were created to fill the void of what the public schools were not feeling. And so, as you know, there's been a litany of charter schools that have come about, and their goals have been to fill those voids. Mm-hmm. And so I do believe that there is a place for charter schools. When I talk about charters, for me, the key is accountability. At the end of the day, any 4 of us board members, if you don't like what we're doing, you have the ability to fire us by not voting us in, if you will, or doing a recall. But the key factor for me with charters is to make sure that there's accountability there as well. So I always think there's a place for them. And the key factor is making sure that they have themselves set up to be successful for those students, because those are still APS students at the end of the day. There are students and there are responsibilities. And so when we look at charters, we want to make sure that it's a good fit, that they have their financials correct and set. I think that's extremely important. And that they will be able to meet the needs, whether that's special education, whether that's gifted and talented, whether that's musicianship, if you will, whatever is required and whatever student wants to go there, they need to make sure that they're able to meet those requirements. And so when we either accept or deny a school, if you will, we're looking at all of those deep factors, but we're also looking at the interviews. I think we have 4 or 5 committees that go through the process of evaluating each application. So when it comes to the board, it's been vetted. When the recommendation comes from the superintendent, whether it's likely to succeed or whatnot, we take that into very serious discussions, and we want to discuss those things. We will always approve charter schools that we believe will meet the needs of the students and will also be will give to the community as well and be successful. That's what our focus always will and always has been. If we deny a school, understand it's because we believe that it's currently falling short in certain areas and needs to address those things. But there's always a place for charter schools, because as long as there are students who have needs that need to be met, and if they're not being met in one place, as a parent, I'm going to tell you, send your child to the place to where they can get their needs met.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Marcus, for narrow, very, good answer to let us know there's a place for charter school in the district. And also the expectation got to be also to set this charter school for success. So
absolutely,
as a community, that's the only thing we ask for. Is that charter or public? We just want to make sure that our kids are set up to succeed in their education. So thank you so much. Now, I know we have a lot of other questions, but please, we will send those through the board of directors email. And as you hear Marcus said, he shared his phone number and email. He will get back in touch with you. But I think, Miss Laurie, this is the time for another raffle. And we have 2 speakers that's going to be coming next. And Miss Laurie, what's the next plan for the raffle?
All right, thanks, Papa. Raffle 2, thank you, Debbie and Marcus. That was great. Great tips. Again, pick a number between 50 and 200 and send it via chat. And remember, if we don't have your email, send your email. I'm going to start the time right. Ready, set, go. 20 seconds.
Oh.
20 seconds.
Make sure you put your name when you put in your number.
10 seconds. 5,
Lord, you said
4,
50, between 50 and 200?
2,
and
1.
people entering 18?
Time. They don't win then.
All right, Laurie, what is the winning number?
The winning number.
89. Oh my goodness. 89. All right, so I guess we will be finding out here shortly the winners. So, and we have 1 raffle left. And just to clarify, the numbers are between 50 to 100. Marcus, thank you so much for those tips and good answer to the question that Dr. N had for you. Our next speaker is Kevin. Kevin also is a familiar face that attended the African Leadership Group event. So it's so good to see you, Kevin, and the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Papa. And I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to the group. And I want to thank you, Papa, and the entire African Leadership Group for all the work you're doing in the community. We have aligned values when it comes, especially to supporting education, obviously, but as well as financial literacy and home ownership, and like the other things that you're doing besides what we're obviously involved in. So I appreciate everything you guys are doing on that, and every little bit counts. So my name is Kevin Cox. I am the current vice president of Aurora Public School District. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. Look, I am, okay, back up 1. I am another worker out of work due to this COVID-19 pandemic right now. I want everyone in the audience to understand this is breaking new precedents for everybody. We are making transitions. We're trying. I'm doing my best to work from home and do what I can do to make money now. But we understand you. There are people going through situations that you're going through on the board in our district, we have everything is just turned on its head. You can feel free to turn that to the next slide. What I want to talk about is inequitable social pressures for a stay-at-home order. A lot of people don't really think about, obviously we think about our first responders. We know in Aurora, at least, they declared a state of emergency on March 13th, and then they declared a state of disaster 6 days later. And at that point, I believe we had 45 police and firefighters who were tested positive, and like 9 administrative workers, and I believe it was like 14 that were put on quarantine at that point in time. We haven't received any updates on that. So the very people who we're leaning on to save our lives when something goes wrong are suffering hard, and they don't have an option to work from home. My closest Walmart to my house was closed due to a breakout. Where are they going to go now? The customers that were there, are they going to go to another Walmart? Is there going to be a cascading effect? So when we're asking questions about the district and how we're gonna respond, understand that the ground is shifting beneath our feet, and we're trying to adapt as quickly as possible. And also, we're keeping in mind that all of these working parents, are also don't always have work from home options, and if they do, now they're having to do childcare at the same time. So we're trying to be as responsive as possible. And I'm very proud of the job that Rico Munn has been doing in our entire APS district. Just my mind was blown when I saw that we had given out 20,000 meals in one single day. So hopefully we'll keep doing that. You can check everywhere and find more information on that. And I really thank our district for staying strong during this time. I'm kind of mixing the topics together so that it's not necessarily one particular point of conversation in my points. But one of the things that I echoed was Debbie's very well put statement that it is okay to not feel okay. I don't feel okay. I know many teachers who don't feel okay. We're all in this together. And my suggestion is not to pull back, even if it feels like this is tearing your family apart, to try to continue with this curriculum. There's always going to be struggles, and these are the times that test us, and we have to stand up to this challenge. I say, dig your toes in and let's face this head on. And if you need to reach out, reach out. Reach out to the board individually, reach out to the superintendent, reach out to your teacher. And now I'm echoing what Marcus was saying. So I'm going to try not to echo people as much as possible because I see we're running a little bit lower on time. But please reach out and follow your protocols and hold us accountable as well. That's another thing, is we're still here to be held accountable. Okay. So African history in our curriculum is the next topic I wanted to talk about. And look, I am not an African history professor. I do not proclaim to know exactly what is going on in the curriculum in every building, but I have spoken to many teachers on this topic. It's been a personal conversation of mine for several years now, and I don't know exactly what needs to be done, but I know that the African Leadership Group has a part in this. I wanted to kind of spearhead an idea of, hey, maybe we could just do some, during this time of transition, we need to take this opportunity to start making changes and continue moving forward with things that we know need to change. As a Black man in America, I can tell you, I don't know enough about my lineage. I need to trace back my genetics. I also know that tons of Black men in America like me don't feel a connection to the Black community. To the African community, as they should. I want more African history in our curriculum. I want your organization to play a part in that. I want to have a conversation with Andre Wright, our Chief Academic Officer, and talk about what that looks like, and not a program or a month, an entire portion of our curriculum. And when it comes to history and social studies, I think since America wouldn't be America without Africa, it's only appropriate. So that is away from the entire subject of the COVID-19, but I really think it's important that our African-American youth don't think that Black history started with chattel slavery. So I'll move on to what we're going to miss after the new normal takes a hold. Personally, I feel that events like this are doing very well to try to fill in the gaps. But I know what it was like the last time we had a forum at the African Leadership Group. We met up, we had hors d'oeuvres, we shook hands, and we introduced ourselves. And we do okay without that. But the meat pies were wonderful. The actual meat of the meeting was informative, and I think that's what we're doing right now. But what I'm going to miss is the after part. That's when everyone loosens up a little bit and we linger, and the people that probably enter the question here in chat will come up and shake your hand and say, I like that part. And, Papa will introduce you to someone that he knows. Just that is the connection part that I feel like we're going to miss the most. And I implore everyone here, if you want to talk to one of us offline, hey, maybe put together a little Zoom get together, and invite a few people, and let's just talk, because that's what we're missing right now. And I never thought it was that impactful until I got onto a Zoom call with a couple people, and we just vented about stuff, and I realized this is what we're missing. Other than that, it's okay if you feel like you're struggling. I feel like I'm struggling too. I'm a very physically active person, and I've been stuck in this house gaining weight. So I'm there with you, trying to work out with a case of water. You know what I mean? Like it's difficult. And my heart goes out to anyone and everyone that's suffering from COVID-19 right now. That's it.
Thank you so much, Kevin. And I can tell you that I have a lot of people raising their hand that want to chime in and want to contribute to part of your presentation. And I can tell you that we have a lot of people in this group that will be willing to have a follow-up conversation on your request. But I have one question that came in through the chat. How would that, when we talk about including the African history into the curriculum, how would that look like, and how can our community help? So that's a question that came in for you.
Well, first of all, it has to be informed by people that are knowledgeable on this topic, and that's why I say you guys have a serious role to play in that, because in many cases we might not even know where to look to find the materials, right? So the materials do exist. And then I would say get that into the hands of the right people. We have entire departments of people that are full of well-paid people that are ready to do this work. Once we start this, understand, I am one board member. I do not speak for the board. I'm willing to support this behind the scenes, and I'm willing to make suggestions during the board meetings publicly, and also do the work behind the scenes with our chief academic officer and whoever he sees fit, to try to envelop your efforts into it and make sure that this gets accomplished.
Thank you so much, Kevin. And as I know, there's a lot of people, if you're raising your hand, you want to chime in, just please be patient. I see a lot of people raising their hand and want to bring their contribution. Please chat in your question. And I see Sinados, a young student, part of the African Leadership Group. Sinados, did you have a question you wanted to ask? Go ahead. Yes. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I did. But what's going to happen to the other districts? Is it going to be like the same with APS? Because I'm not in APS and I want to know what's going to happen. Okay. Okay. Excellent. Well, yes. And we will have the same conversation regarding other districts also. So the same meeting, we're going to have it with APS. We're going to have it with Cherry Creek. So you can get the same information. And community, as you can see, this is a young student from our community asking that question. We owe it to the children for us to create a platform like this so they know what's going to happen to their education, for them to know what next year is going to look like. I know this time we're doing it for APS, but no, we're going to have one for DPS, one for Cherry Creek, because we have a lot of kids that go to different districts. So now, Kevin, I can tell you that I have a lot of people that are in this meeting that have expertise, that would like to have a follow-up conversation on that request, and I will make this connection and we'll be talking more. So thank you so much for your presentation.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. All right. So we have somebody that's very, very familiar to the community, a friend of the community, and doesn't need no introduction, Dr. Kyla. So the floor is yours. It's such a pleasure to see you again among us. Thank you. So you can, if you can unmute. Yes, excellent.
Sorry. You know that I am always so excited and so glad to be a part of anything the African Leadership Group does. You know, for the last couple years, it has been such a joy to be surrounded by the partnership and the community within the African Leadership Group. So again, thank you for the invitation, and
very welcome.
Really excited. I know I only have like 10 minutes, so really, I didn't prepare any slides because I wanted to hear from the community more than me talk. Most of you have heard me say this. I hate the sound of my own voice, so I love to hear others talk and engage. And so I would much rather engage the community about some of the questions or comments that they have about Aurora Public Schools and the board. And I'd also invite my colleagues and Superintendent Munn to chime in as well. Just a thought, you know, I was in the hospital a few days ago and I had to have a COVID test, and so very unpleasant. And I just want to commend those who are working directly in the community, with the community, with families, with students. It's tough, and these times are unprecedented. Being pregnant in this COVID environment is kind of scary. And so just a plug and to piggyback on Debbie's comment or her presentation about it's okay to not be okay. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, for those of you who didn't know. And so please make sure that you reach out to family, friends, folks, because it can feel very isolating to be at home, like Kevin mentioned, to not have that one-on-one people interaction. And for me, who I'm an ambivert, I like to be around people. And missing that component has been really tough. And so just to stress, you know, we're here for you. We care about you, the community. We care about the community. And everybody knows how to get a hold of me, but I've shared my cell phone number and my email with Lori to provide to everyone. And you know, I'm available if anyone ever wants to reach out just to talk or anything. I'm here and I'm available. My day job, I work as with the detention centers, with the juvenile detention centers across the state. And you know, right now, as Marcus commented, the crime doesn't stop, unfortunately. And we've lost quite a few young people in the last couple weeks, just mainly out of boredom. They're out doing things maybe that they shouldn't be doing, and it's very sad. And so it's very important. I always feel like the connection to education is vital, and can definitely be a link to ensure that kids have the interactions that they need so that they don't get involved in other areas that they maybe shouldn't. So with that being said, I'd like to open it up to the community and just hear from you all and hear what needs are out there and see how we can partner together.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kyla. And I want to be the first one to say a couple of words here. We really appreciate your friendship. We really appreciate your presence. So, and it's you are familiar to the community. You come and eat with us. You come and party with us. You come and celebrate with us. You know, when we need also information, you are here. So, you know, on behalf of the community, we cannot really thank you enough, and we really appreciate you just being present. So, I just wanted you to hear that from me, and this come from the entire community. So, thank you.
Thank you. And we couldn't do this work. I couldn't do this work without you guys.
Yeah, thank you. So I know Medina had a question. Medina, are you on? Can you hear me? If you can unmute yourself and ask your question, please. All right, go ahead, Medina. Medina, can you hear me? Okay, so we will go to Alphonse. Alphonse, you had a question. Alphonse, can you hear us? Okay, so maybe Alphonse is not. So I will go couple of questions maybe that we will have. I just see on the chat. One of them is, Dr. Kala, is right now we don't know how long this thing is going to go. What is the plan if we have to get into next year with the same situation? What does it look like? Does the board has any idea how to address that?
Yeah, you know, it's really tough because it feels like things change every day. I know that we have a board meeting on May 12th. And May 12th, we're going to discuss at 6 p.m. It is virtual. I'd invite you all to listen in. We're going to talk about what our next steps might look like, given that the stay-at-home order through Tri-County will be lifted, I believe, on May 9th, if I'm not mistaken. And so what our next steps might look like if the stay-at-home order is lifted for our counties, and the next step there. I know that Governor Polis said that superintendents should maybe plan for a possibility of remote learning through January 2021. And if that happens, what would that then look like? What will it look like for juniors who are going into their senior year next year, who have some different requirements? Those are all of the things that we're talking about with our board, in terms of how we're going to plan. There's so many unknowns right now that it's hard to say, you know, what exactly things will look like come August. Do we start school in July, given there is a possibility for the COVID virus to reignite, if you will, more powerfully in the winter? And so perhaps extending our winter break to prepare for that. Those are some of the things that we're talking about, but we don't know. And I wish I could give a more concrete answer there, but I would encourage the community to participate or listen into our board meetings. They're also recorded, so you can go to our website and listen to those, as well as some of our past meetings that we've had virtually. But those are some of the conversations that we're going to be having on May 12th and May 26th. So,
yeah, good. Well, thank you. Thank you. And we'll definitely have some community members tune in. And the other question that I get all the time from community members, could you talk about the steps if a parent is having some issue at the school? What is the proper channel of step to use before we get to the board? Because they start with the teacher. If the teacher, so if you can just maybe superintendent can chime in and add, but if you could just please show a highlight on what would be the proper steps.
Sure, and you know, it depends on what the issue is. I know that personally, I've been contacted before the families have gone through the proper steps, if you will, within their schools. And so it depends on the situation, to be quite honest. So I'll speak from if I'm contacted. If I'm contacted, what I do is contact Superintendent Munn, and if it's an academic issue, I also reach out to our Chief Academic Officer along with Superintendent Munn and discuss the issue and what the next steps will be and what my follow-up should be as a board member. Ideally, what we would recommend is that you'd handle the issues internally in the school. So first, working with school administration, and if that's unsuccessful, then going up. Does that make sense?
Okay, yes. So it's that, okay.
Superintendent Munn, do you want to chime in there about the proper steps to take if a student has an issue within their school?
Thank you. Yeah, and generally speaking, the most direct method is the most effective. Oftentimes people will try to reach out to board members or to me, and I appreciate the desire to have that connection. But as you might imagine, we don't know the particular situation, we don't know the particular student, and so it's difficult to be, directly helpful in that situation. So where possible, working through the teacher and the principal is the most effective. And then where that's not successful, then starting to talk to learning community director, who is the principal's boss, and starting to try and make those connections.
Yeah, and I know that too, like with monolingual Spanish speakers, I've had a few reach out to me directly because they weren't quite sure how to navigate. And obviously I'm bilingual in Spanish and English. And so sometimes I can help to be a liaison for some of those folks. And we recently had a situation where a student didn't get their Chromebook and the family didn't know how exactly to reach out or who to reach out to and what steps. And so I was able to help them there, and they were able to get their Chromebook with the assistance of Superintendent Munn and Andre Wright. So it just depends on the situation.
Thank you. Thank you. And I want to be respectful of everybody's time, and it's 5 o'clock, and I just want to get to the point where we can wrap up, and I want to give the floor back to Superintendent Munn based on everything that we heard and some of the additional questions, so he can have some closing remarks. So Superintendent, thank you again. So your words of wisdom, closing remark you have for the community.
Well, thank you so much, Papa. And again, thank you everyone who took time out of their Sunday afternoon to connect and to try and get a better understanding of what's happening in our community. It's the breadth of questions. It's tough to kind of summarize all that other than to say, it's great to see so many people who want to understand, want to connect, want to better understand how to support our students, support our families in the things that they're doing. I think our president gave a good example of, one way is monitoring board meetings, checking in on those and understanding some of the big conversations that are happening that eventually impact that. In the next couple of months, we'll be talking about our recovery plan, what's going to be our strategy as we go into the fall, and how do we work through that. Also, very importantly, will be our budget conversation as we go into late May into June. As we'll see dramatic state cuts to the state budget that will impact our education budgets, and we'll be making difficult choices over the next several months as to how we allocate dollars, how we allocate resources, and how we think about how we do education in this community, but throughout the country. So people paying attention to that, and again, making sure that we understand what community needs are, what community interests are, always informs that conversation. So thank you again very much. I appreciate that, and all of your time and interest.
Yes, thank you so much, Superintendent. And we still need to do one more raffle, and we'll announce the winner. And I will be coming up with some closing remark and wanted to thank. So Lori, so we are doing the last raffle, and we'll be announcing the winner after my closing remarks. So thank you, Lori. The floor is yours.
Great, thanks, Papa. And thank you, Kevin and Dr. Kyla. All right, this is our last raffle. Again, the number is between 50 and 200. Let me get my timer. Are you ready? Set. Chat your numbers.
200 from Papa. Nobody else take 200.
Presenters, you can participate as well.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, time.
Oh, wow.
All right. So, and Laurie will be, and Amadou will be working to compile the winners, and we'll make the announcement. And winner number is 67. 67. So while they are compiling to make the announcement for the winners, I just wanted to, I have a message for our guest speakers and superintendent. I have a message for the community, and also an announcement for our upcoming event in August. So, but first, I would like to thank the superintendent for taking the time to be among us. And this means everything to us. We always wanted to have a partnership and a collaboration with the district and with you personally, superintendent, because we believe that we have a role to play when it comes to the success of our kids' education. As immigrants, we came to this country, we want to contribute, and we don't want people to label us as beggars and takers. We want to contribute to the development of this great nation that is home for us. Our kids are born here, they go to school here, their education is very important. We know the language is a barrier, we know the communication is a barrier, but we also want to play our role. So please, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. If there's anything, if there's any family from the community, for whatever reason, parents are not showing up or there's not an understanding, our committee, our community will always be willing to play a role. If there are meetings that's happening at the district where you would like to have our voice heard, believe me, we will be present. So just know this means everything to us, and we are very, very happy to have you among us, and thank you so much for your time. To the board, from Dr. Kairak, Kevin, all of you, we had the chance to interact with you on several occasions. You've been to several events that we have. You are familiar to the community. We just appreciate your service. We appreciate your service, and anything we can do also, let us know. Now to the community, I believe that when it comes to our children's education, we as parents, we as community, we have a vital role to play. And we know that when it comes to, for us immigrants, it's very difficult to juggle 2 jobs, 3 jobs, and figure out how to understand the curriculum. But the African Leadership Group is here as a platform to help. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us, because we can play the liaison between you and the district, between you and the school. We have our kids program for a reason. We have our parent engagement group for a reason. So just know we cannot do this alone. Just know also the district cannot do it alone. We all need to rely on one another. Those are the 3 legs of the stool we talk about. If one leg is missing, it's going to be very difficult to be successful. So I just want to send this message to you. We had the chance to hear from the superintendent. We had the chance to hear from the board of directors. Let's give them also the chance to hear from us. And the only way we can do that is by showing to the board of director meeting, by showing when they have a gathering. So let's make sure this is a 2-way relationship, so they can show up when we need them, and also we can show up when they need us. So we have a lot of experts. We have teachers, we have lawyers, we have engineers in this platform, and I know you personally. So if you're hearing me, just know the message is for all of us. Now, I just wanted to make an announcement we are getting ready for our Africa Impact, and superintendent and board of directors, as you can see, on Tuesday, August 18, that's an international educational forum. Everything that we do, we always include an educational forum. I can tell you, superintendent would love to have you on Tuesday, August 18, as one of the guest speakers, because we're going to be having a similar platform where we are looking forward to have the superintendent from all the districts in Colorado to come and engage with the community. So on Tuesday, we're having the same thing for Business Summit. On the 25th, we are having the gala. But on Saturday, 15, that's the cultural event. And I know Kevin will be there ready to dance and enjoy the food. So we are having African artists coming from Senegal to perform. And it's going to be at the Levitt Pavilion. Please mark your calendar, and there will be more information to come. So Laurie, so do you have those winners to announce?
I'm gonna do.
Yes, sir, I do. So the first raffle, the winner is Tara Bardine. The second raffle, we have Alassana Abba as the winner. And the third, we have Jamal Bowen.
All right, we have Tara, Alassane, and Jamal. And if you have not registered, please do so we can send you your African Leadership Group t-shirt and the Africa Impact mug. So this is a time where I want to express my gratitude and thanks to all of you. So it was a pleasure having you.